Ciao, sono Simone Bianchi e state ascoltando il podcast dei Marvel Card Collectors. Ciao a tutti.
Hello everybody, my name is Ian Taylor and welcome to the Marvel Card Collectors podcast, brought to you by the Marvel Cards Fan Collective. Please don't pull that face at me, sir. An awesome community of card collectors and creators. Everyone, no one's picking on me. He's trying to make me fluff up the opening. Anyway, rude. I will carry on. You can find our two groups on Facebook, details of which are at the end of this podcast, so come check us out, just like our guest did. With me is my co-pilot in all things Marvel cards. I told him we were interviewing the president, and he looked at me weirdly. It's Norrin Rad.
Hello. Yeah, I had prepared a very different thing to say but we met someone so much better.
Yeah.
Why did I say that? Who said that? Ian?
Yes. That's as political as we're getting, because otherwise it gets messy up in here. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody.
Good morning, good evening, good night.
Good night, wherever in the world you are listening to us. Maybe you're in Italy, like Simone Bianchi, who introduced this episode, who needs no introduction, quite frankly.
The man himself, the best.
The man himself. Bless you, Simone. Ciao, Simone. Ciao. And Gloria. For making that happen. I wanted someone of stature. Not that anyone is less deserving of our intro people.
Absolutely.
Over the year and change we've been doing this. But I wanted something where people would sit up and take notice, where their tails would wag, where they would be like a puppy, like this, up at the table going.
Oh, that's pretty horrifying. You can't ever imitate a puppy again.
Like Puss in Boots. Thank you. This is why I don't own dogs.
Did you just bring up Shrek?
Yeah, like Puss in Boots' eyes in Shrek 2, when he goes like this. You're visualizing it now, aren't you? Yeah.
You're actually doing a very good impression. And
that's what I mean. I'm more cats than I am dogs. But I want our listeners to be in that mode when they hear who we're talking to today, because we're actually recording this part of the episode after we've finished talking to our guest.
Hence the giddiness.
So we've in this episode, ladies and germs, and you'll know this because it's in the episode title, we've just been speaking to Jason Masherah, president of Upper Deck, who, if any of you need to know who Upper Deck is, quite frankly, leave the room now.
Good point.
For anyone else, they make Marvel trading cards and many other high-quality trading cards. And Jason was very kind to spare some time in his diary. He actually gave us double the amount of time we had allotted with him.
And so nice, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you. Jason was too. But no.
Nice.
That was nice. That was what you're about to hear is a ton of fun, ladies and gentlemen. I really, really enjoyed everything that you're about to hear. It's kind of weird doing this. We've never done one of these kind of before.
No
things
post
interview. Before our listeners have heard it. So I guess
we're still digesting everything.
We're still digesting it. So. Yeah. All
I feel fortunate.
Spoilers.
That you guys get to be experiencing this for the first time. We've talked about many things, many inside things, many fun little snippets that maybe questions we've had about EPAC, questions about the sets, questions about the origins of particular sets, primarily MM 2016. Mm-hmm. You're going to get a first-hand account of how all this came to be. And just to say, we have more people we'll be interviewing from Upper Deck, more of Jason's team, more of the people responsible for the very things you collect and enjoy.
Yeah, so it's basically our way of saying to you that year 2, people, is, quite frankly, going to rock. We promised it would do, and we're very, very excited about some of the stuff we've got coming up, not least of which the interview that you're about to hear. What else can I tell you? nothing really. We should probably just let people hear it.
That's a good point.
And
Let's
just stop
that.
talking. So thank you, Simone. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Norrin.
Thank you, Ian.
Oh, bless you, sir. Bless you. I will before I segue neatly into our interview with Jason. Just say to people that we have a YouTube channel. And we're going to be doing a lot more content on that over the coming months, including there will be an episode of this podcast that is not audio that will be exclusive to our YouTube channel. So it would serve you well to go there right now and subscribe to it. So you can find us at YouTube /C, which is channel / Marvel Card Collectors Podcast. It's pretty easy, really. At the MCC pod was taken, alarmingly enough, but we got that one. So hey, what can you do? But everywhere else we're at the MCC pod. So seriously, keep an eye on those feeds, people, because we're doing stuff. We're doing more stuff. We're doing stuff on our YouTube. We're doing stuff on our Instagram. We're doing stuff on Twitter, which is a challenge because of the number of characters. And
if you have any suggestions to some videos you would like to see, some set reviews, some box openings, anything like that, please list in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And remember to subscribe, like, and comment if you can.
Yeah. Listen, like, and share.
Writing that down.
Marvelous. Quick, write it down. Quick, Norrin, put it on a t-shirt.
I am.
Okay.
Like, share, happy collecting. Got it.
Marvelous. Okay. Oh, good grief. Okay. Norrin, roll VT. So I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome our guest today on the Marvel Card Collectors podcast. Introduce yourself, sir.
I'm Jason Masherah, president of Upper Deck.
Brilliant. I'm so glad I asked you to pronounce that surname because we hadn't taken a run at it beforehand. So thank you for doing that. This has been some time in the making, actually, having you guys on the podcast. So I really appreciate that we're starting kind of with the boss.
Well, look, I think we'll get into it, but I think there's quite an interesting set of stories here that I think should probably be interesting to your guys' listeners.
Good.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are very excited to hear from you, my friend.
Yeah, no, this is going to get some tails wagging, which is good. So I guess the first thing we've got, we have a little list of talking points here, and you've heard us. We tend to go around the houses a little bit, but mindful of your time. I guess you've been at Upper Deck a fair while, and you've been president since 2013, I believe.
Yes.
So how do you get there? What takes Jason from wherever you came from to be president of Upper Deck?
Well, so we'll go into a little bit of my origin story a little bit here.
Yes.
So if we go way back, I started collecting cards, trading cards, sports cards. 1986 roughly was the first set I ever got. It was actually given to me by my godparents for Christmas. That was the gateway drug, and after collecting sports cards for a while, I had one of my best friends said, "Hey, do you collect comics? Do you read comics?" And I said, "No, I really don't." And he introduced me to comics, and we went into the comic store and we looked around, and for my first comic, we settled on X-Men 270. And
yes.
If you don't remember X-Men 270, it was basically the first part of the Extinction Agenda, which is why Havoc is my favorite character. He was the central piece of that storyline. So that was my entry into comics, and I'm a hardcore X-Men guy. Sometimes I don't even recognize, or I fail to recognize that the Avengers are big now, because when I was collecting comics, nobody cared about the Avengers back then.
Yeah.
So kudos to Marvel for making the Avengers a big deal, because it was always the X-Men growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, what kind of takes us into the next step, into the pathway, is I remember vividly the first set of Marvel Universe sitting on the counter at the store. And, at some point, you guys got to have a gentleman named Bubby Johansson on, because we had this great story. Bubby and I used to go to the comic book store, and he actually worked in my shop at one point. But there was a box in Marvel Universe that is ingrained in my mind, because he bought a pack, and in that pack, I think he hit 3 holograms in that pack.
Wow.
Marvel Universe. So he bought another pack, and that pack had like 5 holograms in it. And he bought another pack, and the whole pack was holograms. And eventually, the guy behind the counter that was watching this happen ended up taking the box away from him and not allowing him to buy any more packs, because it was some weird glitch box where the majority of cards in the box were all holograms. And as you guys know, if you guys remember, at that time, those holograms were $10, $20, $25 a piece.
Yeah.
It's like hitting a gold mine. So obviously I got very excited about Marvel trading cards at that point, because I saw something that was not supposed to happen. And then, my set, which I know is a set for a lot of the listeners that you guys have, and a lot of the people in your room, that to me is still my favorite Marvel trading card set of all time, is 1992 Marvel Masterpieces.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at that time, I had been working in a card and comics store, and I bought just oodles and oodles of that 92 Marvel Masterpieces and fell in love with it. And shortly after that, I ended up starting my own card and comic book store, and had a lot of the subsequent sets that everybody's collecting now, the 93, 94, 95, whether it's Flair Ultra, Marvel Universe, all that stuff I had in my store. I didn't collect it as much because I was selling it at that time. And from there, I shut down the shop. I continued to collect. I continued to sell cards, and I'll skip a lot of the boring stuff in between. But in 2006, I came to Upper Deck, and I never imagined working for a trading card manufacturer. Never crossed my mind. But I know I wanted to work in something sports and entertainment. There was a position open at the time. I started working as a brand manager on basketball. That was my first job. And shortly after that, I had a position that was working for me, and Bubby, who I collected with, he worked at my store. He came to work for me on basketball as well. And shortly after that, there were a lot of stuff that just went completely haywire at Upper Deck. Things changed, and eventually one day, the entire entertainment team was gone. And basically, they came to me. Management at the time came to me and said, "Guess what? You've got entertainment." And what they didn't know is I was a closet entertainment nerd. They thought I was a sports guy. Ironically, Bubby, the same way. So Bubby and I took over the Marvel license at that time, and we looked at it, and it was interesting because there was only really one set in the pipeline that they left behind, which was Iron Man 3. There was no other projects in the pipeline, which was shocking to me. And, at that time, the entertainment team was really focused on games. They were killing it, crushing it on games. They weren't focused on trading cards. And Upper Deck had this weird dichotomy where, we had this huge trading card division, but it was all sports. The sports division wasn't doing anything on the entertainment side. The entertainment side was really geared towards games. They didn't really know trading cards, because games and trading cards are very, very different. So Bobby and I were pretty excited to get our hands on Marvel trading cards. And we put out the Iron Man 3 product. We kind of finished that up and put it out the door. And quite frankly, if anybody has a chance to buy Iron Man 3, it's probably one of the best sets ever, because it was a huge loser for Upper Deck. Like, there was so much content in there. Like, it was just a bad product for Upper Deck. Great for the consumer, great for collectors. Great set. So Bubby and I kind of inherited it, and we looked at it and said, well, okay, what are we going to do? And really reflected our time of collecting, and really started up. And a lot of the early Upper Deck stuff, when we really started getting cranking, is really Bubby's doing. Bubby was the one that created it. I was the one that just made sure it got out the door. So the first Thor set, the first Captain America set, Marvel Beginnings was his brainchild, which is still one of my favorite sets.
I love Beginnings.
And then I think what's interesting, and I knew you guys would love this, is Bobby and I were sitting around one day and we were kind of digging through some documents and looking at some stuff in the market. And we had noticed that the Old Entertainment Group had done some Marvel Masterpieces sets. And it looked like the first one had done pretty well, and then each subsequent set had some issues in the marketplace. We heard a lot of complaints from dealers and collectors about kind of the second and the third set. And Bubby and I sat around and said, I told him, I said, 1992 Masterpiece is my favorite set of all time, right? And he said, yeah. So my dirty little secret is I love 92. I was okay with, kind of the next one, 93. And then I completely abandoned Masterpieces after that. I'm one of the few, and I know your collectors love them. After 92, it just jumped the shark to me. And I'll explain why in a minute. So I looked at what the team did in I think it was 2006, 2007, 2008, somewhere in there. And I told Bubby, I said, I want to bring this brand back, and there's only one way to do it. There's only one way that we bring this thing back and we revive it, and that's with Joe Jusko. Yeah. And Bubby said, absolutely, 100%, I'm on board. He said, I think I know how to structure the set. So we called Joe, had a great call with Joe. And I said, look, that set to me is the best set of all time. I would love the opportunity to work with you here. Love for you to do a set. We would like you to do the whole set. And Joe candidly said, that's a lot of work. If you want me to do the whole set, that's a lot of work. And I said, look, it's the only way I think to do this set is to do it. And one of the things he expressed to me, which a lot of us didn't know, was that original set. He felt like at the end, Skybox put a lot of pressure on him to hit timelines. And he felt like some of the art he did was a little rushed. So we made the commitment to not rush him. We wanted everything to be, we wanted him to be 100% happy with it. And part of the reason that I was adamant, and I know Bubby feels the same way, of having Joe do the whole set, is that was what I loved about the 92 Masterpieces set, is I knew that every card I got out of that product, because I love his artwork, I was going to be happy with. When Masterpieces started using multiple artists, the experience to me was never the same. I felt like, art is in the eye of the beholder, right? And not every artist, I'm not a fan of all the different types of art. So if I'm really into a set, I want ideally as a consumer, I want it to be all from that same artist, because I know what I'm getting out of the set. Whether I like the character or not, I know I like the art. So that was what we talked about, was I wanted everything to go back to that 92 model where it was all one artist. And the trouble with that is it is a lot of work for one person. Mm-hmm. But that was the way I felt that it needed to go back. If you look at the core identity of that brand, that 92 set is so iconic. I wanted it to go back to that thing, and having Joe, kick it back off with that, I guess, brand tenant, to me was the only way to do it. And we were blessed to work with Joe. Joe was an absolute steward of the brand coming back. And, there were things that happened here at Upper Deck, and there were things that happened in Joe's life that thing took a long, long time, as you guys know and you guys talk about. I think it from beginning to end, from the first conversation that we had with Joe, it was 5 or 6 years.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, because we always notice the different dates on the cards, and we always talk about, what must have been the first couple of characters, the second wave, the third wave, and so forth. But, I mean, you look at that set, and it's like, it's worth the time. And, yeah.
Well, and it's hard when you run a business, and this is what's always tough, I think, being an artist, right? Because artists are in naturally perfectionists. We're trying to run a business. We're trying to hit deadlines. We're trying to hit projections. So the natural inclination is to push these guys hard to hit the deadline. Yeah. And in this case in particular, we had committed to Joe that we wouldn't push him. We wanted him to be happy with it. Because with a lot of artists, it's not about the money. It's about the work that they're creating. So we waited. And honestly, we got a lot of pressure even from Marvel because they kept saying, you keep talking about this set. Does this set even exist? Is it coming out? And we told them, like, when it comes out, it will be amazing. You just have to wait for it. So it was a long wait, but I think it was worth it. And I can't say good enough things about Joe. Fantastic partner. We continue to work with him on different stuff. I think the only difference was educating Joe on the difference between the card market from 1992 and the card market now, because obviously we didn't make a lot of 2016. It's a very limited print run. Back in 92, I mean, somebody somewhere still might be printing that thing. Right?
We did actually get we got the number on today's episode, which you may not have heard yet. We spoke to Ken Barrow from Skybox, and he told us how many they made. And it's a crazy astronomical number. So compare that to how much of 2016 there's out there. It's like, it's like David and Goliath in terms of the set size.
I think 2016, though, especially what your team and you created and Joe created, is you started a new type of Marvel card. Right. The limited number, the inserts, the way you went up, the approach you had at it, that's starting a whole new wave of collecting. A whole new type of collector is Marvel 16 and Marvel 18. And, for the future of Marvel, whatever comes next, that you've started a brand new way of Marvel trading cards, that's what I'm just so in awe of, other than the art and all these amazing things that you've done. That's really started something new.
Yeah, and I think your expectations, and I know you guys have a masterpiece room. The expectations for everybody should be that the brand now is one artist focused, and sometimes they get delayed. Sometimes it takes a little longer. When you have one artist, there are things that happen in people's personal lives. Pandemics hit. Crazy things happen that don't allow you to release it or even announce a release date when you would like to, but the end result is clearly worth it. I mean, I think Simone carried the torch very well. I think he did a fantastic job on the last masterpieces, and the new one will be incredible as well. But it is so much work for these guys to crank out a whole set's worth of artwork by themselves.
I mean, honestly, too. Speaking for Ian and I, the podcast kind of came up because of these breaks, because we do have to wait, but we are all excited. What a better way than to kind of like check in and have a weekly show, because that way we can always kind of be up to date, have fun speculating and all these really great things, because at the end of the day, we all know it's going to be worth it to see this set finally visualized.
Yeah, and I think the other turn, and again, you can talk to Bobby and our new head of trading cards, Grant Sangram. The other difference that you guys know that Masterpieces is completely different is we really wanted every piece of the artist artwork to be collectible, which is why everything's numbered for the most part. Smart. It's really focused on the base set, where so many cards, whether it's sports or entertainment, the base sets are throwaways. And we thought with Masterpieces in particular that approach would do a disservice to how beautiful the art is. We wanted to make every single card collectible.
Yeah. And we hear from collectors all the time about, I wish I could buy a box and make a full set. And, but once they get over that hump, at least for me, I'm not speaking for everyone. For me, what happened was I got over that hump and all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, but they're numbered. From a collector's standpoint, that places the value on the hunt. And then, of course, the hunt is the fun, the fun kind of thrilling part about it. Well, go on. Amazing. Really cool.
Well, no, I knew you guys would be pretty excited about the kind of the origin of reinventing of masterpieces. And
yes,
that came in a quiet meeting in our old building between Bubby and I, of wanting to kind of bring that thing back and doing it right. And thank God for Joe to want to be able to do it, because he could have easily said, you know what, that was in the past. I did my masterpieces set. I've kind of moved past it, and he wanted to do it too. Like everybody wanted that kind of rebirth of what Marvel Masterpieces was, and to me, it had to have been Joe Jusko. There was no other choice.
No.
Yeah. I mean, and absolutely. I mean, it knocked it out of the park. I mean, when you saw, because obviously with the lead time of these sets, you've got 2016 as it became, could have been 2014, could have been 2015, 2016. When you're working on that and you kind of, okay, that's coming out, you've obviously got other projects in the pipeline. So at what point do you know that you're going to be doing a 2018 or what became 2018? I mean, I find it interesting, the crossover and how long you must lead, especially on these big tentpole sets like the Masterpieces, like the Fleer Ultra Spider-Man, Fleer Ultra X-Men, those beautiful premium quality sets that you work on. I mean, the lead time on those must surely be different to some of the sets where the art isn't original, or the sets where it's maybe MCU related. I mean, can you talk a little bit about how that, now that you kicked the ball rolling, if you like, with 2016, how do you then keep that standard?
Well, and look, this is the frustration that I think your collectors have, is being able to announce like a solid calendar. And the problem is that you have a couple of different layers. So, the team made the decision for Ultra to do all original art. And that causes, now we do use multiple artists on that set, but you still have delays because you are waiting for art, and it's not always the artists that delay it. Sometimes it's actually approvals, and getting approvals through either internal or Marvel. So you have all these different layers, and it's hard to come out with a release date because there are these twists and turns. And even if you get all your approvals and you get all of your art on time, then you have things like sketch cards. So you can have all the other stuff lined up, but you don't have enough sketch cards, or the sketch cards you got weren't approved, either internally or by the licensor. So it is very difficult to announce release dates. And then you take another layer of, we take those cards, we send them to ComC to scan them. Mm-hmm. So there's additional time there. Sometimes it takes longer because, as you guys have seen, not all the scans are ideal. And sometimes we have to rescan things. And even when you rescan them, based on the technology of the card, it might not come out great, and you kind of have to live with it. Yeah. So, there are so many different layers of things that have to come together. So to get to try to put some semblance of an answer together for you, it's typically anywhere between 2 and I would say 5 years on an individual set.
Wow, that's amazing.
Sounds like herding cats.
It really is. And then, you add the complication of MCU. One of the unique things with MCU, if anybody's collected it from the very beginning, when we came out with the Captain America and the Thor sets, which is during my tenure, kind of the new evolution of our trading card group, those sets used to come out they actually used to come out 4 to 6 weeks before the movie. And now we're like a year after the movie. And I think the thing that would surprise everybody is the thing that causes that is all the CGI animation in the movies. They actually don't finish a lot of the CGI animation until right before release of the movie, which means we don't get imagery.
Wow.
So now, with how complicated and technical these movies have become, which are great for us as viewers, they've become a nightmare for creating trading card sets, because we're not getting imagery until it's been in the theater for quite some time, which means you can't build the set ahead of time.
Wow, I never would have put that together. That's absolutely insane to understand that. Wow.
Which is why you guys are waiting for Endgame to hit EPAC still. Is
That's
all these
exciting.
Yeah,
we've been talking about that. We had someone great on the show who's a pretty big time collector, and he was talking about the MCU, and we were like, we got to bring this into the group because
he loves his MCU,
and he made some really cool points too. The idea that these cards are benchmarks, actors, autographs, sketches, all this kind of stuff, is that the MCU is just as big as masterpieces. It might be a different branch, but it's a really big chunk of Marvel collecting.
Well, and I think as a collector, I think what's interesting about MCU is that the movies are very character focused. So, you have two very distinct collector bases between MCU and the publishing artwork. But, me as an X-Men fan, if I was doing X-Men sets, I would probably buy those because those are my characters. So
yeah,
where you see crossover is typically on if you care about the character more than, I'm either one or the other, right? Like if it's character I care about, to me, the one exception I would like to see for people is, look, growing up, again, I was hardcore X-Men. X-Men was my thing. I didn't understand people who read Daredevil. I didn't get it. But that Netflix series,
amazing.
Netflix series made me
astonishing.
Daredevil fan.
Yeah.
And if people haven't watched that Netflix series, I mean, the 3 seasons of Daredevil are absolutely incredible. Some of the best comic book content I've ever seen brought to life.
Absolutely.
So now all of a sudden I'm interested in Daredevil trading cards because the TV show made me a fan.
Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting because, when you think about it, the MCU stuff is very character based. And I think, if I'm not a fan of that character, it's hard for me to get excited to buy it unless I fall in love with the movie or the TV series.
Yeah. And then you have actors and celebrities, right? If you like a celebrity, but they're playing this role of a character you've never heard of, and you dive into it that way as well. Yeah. Fantastic.
Right. Like we know if there's a Black Cat movie at some point, we know somebody who's actually going to buy a lot of movie products.
I don't want to meet that guy. That guy has to be scary. I don't know.
Hey, listen, you've already had Silver Surfer in 2 movies. No,
okay.
One, two.
Listen, one, Rise of the
Anyway.
Surfer. Let's all calm down. Let's get our facts straight. Okay, let's not talk
But I'm
crazy.
not sure there was a card set for that, was there? I don't think there was.
No, there wasn't. I think there was like an insert in Marvel Masterpieces 07 or 08 for like
That
a costume
was
thing.
For the first movie. Yeah, it was
2008. And it's really pretty. It's really nice, really well laid out. But
They're very nice.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, no Surfer. But
No
I'm just
surfer.
putting that
No
out there for you, Jason, just so you listen.
I'm sure Jason's going to get right on that as soon as we're finished.
I don't want to
with
look desperate or anything, but I'm just
it. So 2016 drops, and then around the time that 2016 came about, it was one of the first sets that came onto your EPAC platform. So can you tell us a little bit about how EPAC fits in with the journey that you've come on so far, and then 2016, and then where that's taken you now, I guess?
So EPAC has its own origin story. So I originally drew up the schematics for EPAC back in 2007. We did a program called Yankee Stadium Legacy, which, to kind of rewrite history or I guess bring up history, 2008 was the closing of Yankee Stadium in New York. And we came up with a program, an insane program, to make a card from every game ever played at Yankee Stadium, which was well over 6,000 cards. And we created a collection program for that, where if you collected it's like 6,661 cards, you would actually be the first 5 collectors could have a dream day at Yankee Stadium, including going on the field and meeting Derek Jeter. Oh. And for that program, my challenge is how do I confirm and checklist 6,661 cards for collectors, and then how do I verify them as the manufacturer that they actually have them? So I drew up this diagram for kind of pre-EPAC. The problem was the technology wasn't there. In particular, one of the deal breakers for me was if I got an autograph, if I got a game used jersey card, in sports lingo, if I had a sketch card, I don't want a representative image of that card. I want to see the card that I'm going to get. Right? Whether it's a piece of a movie memorabilia swatch or a game used jersey swatch or an autograph or a serial number, right? Because serial numbers do matter. I need 100%. To see exactly what I'm going to get because they have different values depending on what the swatch looks like, what the serial number is, what the autograph looks like. So to me, that was always the deal breaker is how do I deliver that to an end consumer so that what they see or what they get in their pack, they're actually going to get. And about, I don't know now, it's 5, 6, I'm trying to think now, 7 to 8 years ago, I was able to, with people I had met and technologies I had seen, I was able to put together the technology partners to make this thing a reality. So I went and I met with Dynamics, who is the one who built the infrastructure for this thing. And I had worked with them on another platform where we built a rewards program on a credit card that allowed you to actually trade cards on the rewards platform. And I explained to the owner of the company, and I said, here's what I want to do. Do you think you could do it? And he said, yeah, we patented some of the technology on this. We can absolutely build it. How are you going to scan cards? And I had seen ComC and what they were doing. So then I moved from Dynamics and I went over to ComC and said, hey, what do you guys think? And they said, yeah, what you're doing, like, I get it. Let's put it together. So at that point, we were able to put it together and launch it in 2016. I think it was January of 16. And, none of us knew I would like to say I knew what it was going to be because to me, as a collector, I wanted the opportunity to open up a pack anywhere, anytime. My mantra was if I'm on a subway in New York, or for the sake of this show in London, I want to be able to open up a pack of cards.
Yeah, and I have done.
because now I've got, half an hour to kill, and I want to open cards and I want to trade and I want to do that at my fingertips. And that was kind of the impetus for that. So we launched in January of 16 and very quickly, knew exactly what we had. And then the impetus became how quickly can we get Marvel on the site? We really want to get Marvel on the site. And honestly, it was a Herculean effort by the team because we were still in the infancy of the site to make that happen. And the team somehow made it happen, and we were able to launch it at Comic-Con as kind of like a simultaneous launch, wow. Physical and e-pack. And that will probably never happen again because it literally, we moved heaven and earth to make that happen. And I think that thing lasted 2 weeks on e-pack, and it was gone. And then we were in this dilemma of when is the next Marvel product coming to the site from there?
Give us the task and we will complete it. Okay. I'm just going to put that out there for everybody. We do not dilly-dally.
And I think it's more important for the entertainment collector, and in particular the Marvel collector, more than anything, because again, if you trace the history of Marvel cards, and I see some of this chatter, the 90s really kind of destroyed. It was the rise of Marvel cards, and it was they destroyed them at the same time. And the challenge that we've had over the last several years, I would say the last decade, for Marvel card collectors is most trading card shops don't carry Marvel cards because most of their collectors are sports guys. Comic book shops got so burned in the 90s when the market went south that in some of these shops, and again, this is a good thing right now, some of these shops still have their inventory from the 90s. Now, recently, they benefited from that because those boxes have all shot up in value. But when you ask them to buy new product over the last 10 years, they said, I don't want to get stuck with it again. Gaming shops have no interest because they don't sell trading cards. So really, if you're a Marvel card collector, where do you go to collect these things? And I think ePack, in some respects, has given us that platform to find the Marvel card collectors, because the Marvel card collectors had no idea where to go. And we're very supportive of brick and mortar stores. We typically only sell to brick and mortar stores, and a lot of these brick and mortar stores won't carry Marvel cards. I think that's beginning to change very quickly. But ePack has now created a community not only that allows the collectors to buy the cards, but also to trade the cards in complete sets in a way that's never been done before. It really has created a community in the last two years in particular that I don't see slowing down anytime soon.
Well, it was really funny because all of us Marvel collectors all have the same story, right? We're just like, I need Marvel cards. I'm back into this. I want to go ahead and get started again. And all of us have gone on the same journey. Comic book store, we don't do it. Maybe find an old box if you're lucky. Sports stores, we don't know who you are. Why are you here? And then it's just this journey to find these boxes and to find a platform to buy them in. I know at a sports store near me, I was responsible for them getting MM18 because when I went in there, I said, I collect Marvel cards. Do you have any? He goes, wait a minute, did you do the Joe Jusko set? No joke. Verbatim. And I was like, yeah, I was into it. And they were like, oh, money signs, exciting. I love that artwork. That was great. Can't believe they did that again. And then they're ordering 18. And then they're ordering Premiere, shockingly enough, right? And it's definitely starting to go. But I think a job that Ian and I do quite a lot and we never get tired of because we want people to kind of start getting into it. And I'm excited to see the evolution of ePack, right? I'm excited to see where it goes and it becoming even more user-based, very focused on the scans, all the details that you guys are putting into that work. That for me is very much the future for Marvel collectors. I mean, because you're right. Unfortunately, it's very hard to get this product physically, at least in a store, and have that communication.
And one of the things that you'll know from listening to the show is we get an awful lot of people coming into our groups on Facebook who are coming back to it and have no idea how collecting works now. In the
how it's evolved.
What is this decade called? It's not the noughties was the last one. I've no idea what they are. But and we always end up pointing towards that there are most listened to episodes is the ePack 101 and 101 Part 2, where we literally say, right, okay, just go and have a look at those. And the second one we did as a video. And we're going to do a third one, which is which we're collating, and you'll find it quite useful, actually, I think, is wish list, where people want ePacks 2.0. I mean, I'm sure on your side of things, it's probably on 4.7 by now, in terms of the small little iterational changes you've made to it over the years. But and people initially don't get it. They don't. Well, hang on a minute. It's a digital card. I want to be able to hold it. They go to mind the platform that one of your rivals has. Right. I won't mention now because I'm sure lightning will come to me. But that's where their mind goes, and we're like, well, yes, there are some digital components to it, but they're all stepping stones to a physical product. And I think once people get their head around that and about the building of the set and the collecting, and especially with the scale of some of the sets that you now create, it's very much, we have to say to people, look, you can't come at it from a 90s perspective of you're going to build the whole thing and have a card that you can tick it off, because none of your sets will fit on a single card checklist anymore, as Norrin found out when he made some for Masterpieces 2018.
You should have seen me. The text just kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I was like, no.
But he's done them.
I did it.
If you need them,
I did them.
He's
they
done
look really
Masterpieces 2018 checklist cards.
People were really excited, so it was fun to do.
Yeah, but we'll send you some. But the fact that you can choose how to collect the set, you can choose how to build it. So with 2016, it's you might just want to go for the tier 1, or you might just want to go for the X-Men characters, and you can do that. You don't have to own the whole
signature, parallels. I mean, there's definitely a lot of options, and that's kind of bred character collectors too. I think the massive of the sets actually bred people who were like, you know what, I like this character. Let me go for this rainbow.
Well, and I think what's important with EPAC, one of the core tenets, again, if you go back to the creation, was I'm big on the physical asset here, and I'll tell you why. Look, I'm old school. I like to hold stuff. I like tactile stuff. To me, there's a couple things that are really important. One, you can't come up with a digital representation of an actor autograph, a piece of screen-worn memorabilia, or a one-of-one sketch card piece of art that you can hold in your hand. To me, that can never be replaced digitally. And you can create cards that kind of simulate that, but to me, it's just never going to be the same. The second piece is, I don't know if you guys ever played, there was a fantastic digital trading card game called War of Heroes, Marvel War of Heroes, several years ago. And fantastic game. It was a trading card game. It encouraged you to spend lots of money, and people had collections on that system that were tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars that they had spent on this.
I know this. Yeah.
And eventually their license ran out with Marvel, and they didn't renew, and they had to sunset the game. And overnight, you had collectors and players of this game losing their collections forever. Yeah. You know, people who had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on their collections. And to me, that's, as a collector who cherishes my collectibles, and if for some reason I got into hardship like I did when I went to college and I need to sell off some cards to fund my college education or something like that, they're gone. Like, all that money I spent is just evaporated overnight. And that's where I really struggle with digital trading cards, because literally overnight they could go away. And I think the dirty secret to any digital trading card system is, if you look in the terms and conditions, a lot of them flat out say you own nothing. Like, you don't own anything. These cards are not yours. You don't own them. You know, they will go away. And, you know, I never want to put collectors in that situation. And that's why I am so adamant about the physical piece of this. Now, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that I feel like the workaround for that, because I do know people who collect digitally, and I have friends that this has happened to, where they lost their account or crashed or sunset, you know, where the game's kind of gone. But I feel like the thing that EPAC offers that, I mean, is really intriguing for collectors now, and I can't wait for people to start buying into this more, is EPAC achievements. Right. You can only get this physical card of this EPAC achievement through the digital means. And I think that's the proper workaround, especially for collectors.
Right. I mean, it's that bonus, right? Like, one of the things that we really want to focus on and reward is people who collect sets, or in some cases they collect certain characters, right? Because you can do achievements different ways. You can be rewarded for collecting sets. You can, you know, foil things up. You can do your web foils and create parallels and rainbows of your favorite characters. So there's different ways to collect. The one thing I would say, though, that I think is sometimes tough when you look at a vacuum is, when you do have physical cards, there is a cost to retrieve those physical cards. And, you know, I think it's the most common complaint we hear is you know, shipping the cards. And you know, for us, we don't mark up what it costs ComC to collect those cards. If you look at the cost on ComC, it's the exact same on EPAC, so we're not making any money. It's a pass-through. But what I think would intrigue you guys and your listeners is, if you think about having to pick the orders for this, I think the first place to start visually is think about the warehouse in Indiana Jones.
Yes.
There is this massive warehouse, and literally you have people, you know, we're not at the point of, you know, robots yet. You know, we haven't entered the Matrix or Skynet, right? So there are literally people walking through aisles picking individual orders. And, you know, that costs money. You have to pay those employees to go pick those orders and assemble those orders and ship them. And when you ship them, on top of that, and again, this is the stuff that nobody thinks about, cards are heavy. and they create big boxes, and the cost of postage has skyrocketed over the last 5 years. So if you think about the cost of somebody having to go pick those cards out of the warehouse, and you think about what the legitimate cost, I think people would be shocked if they go, okay, I just got this 30-pound package of cards. If I was to turn around and ship it back, how much that would cost? I think people would be shocked at how much just the pure shipping costs these days. So really, when you look at it, like, it's very reasonable. I actually think ComC does a pretty good job of keeping the price down. But then the thing that nobody considers, except for really educated collectors, is if you had to do individual shipments off of eBay for all these individual cards, the cost would be probably 10x what it cost ComC to send that stuff out. And that's the way a lot of us collected before EPAC. Yep. Is I got 10 cards with 10 different shipments at $5 a piece. I'm paying $50 to collect cards, right? So it's a shell shock when you see that shipping cost. It is, yeah, believe me, I get it. Like, I see the shipping that people pay. It's a shell shock, but when you step back and you look at it, you go, okay, I kind of get it. Like, even me, when we were seeing the first shipments, the first year of EPAC, I looked at ComC. I'm like, $300 for shipping? Are you kidding me? And they would walk me through it, and they go, well, just the UPS cost alone is $150, and we haven't even actually packaged them or put sleeves on them, or packing materials, things of that nature. So it's I think it's the one thing that I think is probably the hardest thing for people that collect physical cards on EPAC to really get their head around is that shipping cost. And I don't think that's ever going to go away. I think people are always going to struggle with that cost.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times when we have talked to collectors, had these conversations, I think the other benefit to being able to have physical cards somewhere is that you can trade with people otherwise you would have never had contact with. Because just imagine trading, because back in the day, right, you would have things that were faxed to people or emails with pictures and stuff. What do you want? What card are you looking for? Because old school sketch card trading type of thing. EPAC allows you to trade with someone across the way who is basically a collector who has the one of one or the limited number of piece you're looking for. And that service you can use effortlessly by just buying a pack. I mean, that for me is really the benefit when looking at it.
I'll show my age a little bit here, but I don't know if you guys ever monkeyed with like the buy, sell, trade boards back in the day. Yep. You would execute a trade. You'd spend $5 on shipping to ship one card to somebody, and then you hope like hell that they would actually sell the card that they were supposed to, because sometimes you just got stiffed. Like that card that they were supposed to send you never showed up, and there was no repercussions. There's nothing you could do about it, other than put them on a scamming, list somewhere. You just hoped. And, I think the benefit with EPAC is you are connecting with people you would never connect with, and the trade is secure. When that trade comes through, that belongs to you at that point. There's no waiting and hoping that somebody's not going to scam you.
Yeah.
Well, brilliant. I mean, I love it. I mean, listen, I know I'm probably not technically supposed to be collecting them because I might not be in the United States, but let's keep that our little secret. But it enables, you think about that 10x cost of shipping them all individually. Imagine what that's like overseas.
Oh yeah.
I'm my first transaction on eBay back in, I'm going back 20 years now. I bought something from the US and they stiffed me. They could see I was a new user,
right?
And never arrived, and it wasn't cheap either. So yeah, that security is something that I get as well, because my background is live entertainment ticketing, and people always complain about booking fees, but what they don't appreciate is the fact that the technology that enables you to be able to go online and browse for a ticket, look at a seating plan, and have that taken securely, and have your data treated securely, and to give you that convenience, that's got to be paid for somehow. So it's for me, I understand that very much because it's on that same spectrum. You're not paying for, you're not just being fleeced, you're paying for a convenience. if you like, because there's also the storage of the cards. Some people, leave them there because, they might be in the forces, or they might be in an area that's subject to weather conditions and, extreme events, as a lot of the US
or
is.
Some people just don't pick up their collections. I can imagine there's cards sitting in collections by users who haven't logged on in a year or so.
Well, and I think that was one of the benefits that we identified very quickly because, look, we've got significant others who don't want a closet full of stuff or a garage full of stuff, right? We've got people who live in small apartments, in big cities like, Tokyo or New York or London, where they just don't have room for this stuff. And again, we don't charge for storage. Like, that's baked in. And again, people don't think about that. Like, that costs money to keep that stuff in ComC's warehouse. That stuff is all kind of covered already. And the stuff is insured as well, right? So, it's covered all the way around. Again, an intrinsic benefit for people, whether it's just cleaning up your house or, look, the reality is, you guys talk about it in trading. The reality is, if I open up a box or a pack, the reality is most of those cards I either don't want or I don't need. So why would I bring them home and want them in my house? I might as well leave them in my account where I can at least have them there in the marketplace and trade them for stuff that I do want. Right. Yes. So there's a huge advantage there as well. And look, you guys are going to be excited. There's a lot of exciting stuff coming to EPAC soon.
Yay!
That's going to be my next question. What's next? You can talk about.
I'm not going to give you guys any exclusives on MM20 or EPAC. I'll leave that for other people. But there is a massive project that we've been working on for EPAC for 2 years now. That we'll be launching this year for sure. And then, I think the hardest part is always prioritizing either new features or making things a little bit easier. We always talk about less clicks, trying to get to things without having to navigate a whole bunch of stuff. But quite frankly, we have in our platform, it's so different than everything else. Everything that we're doing for the first time, because nobody else has a platform in the world where you can trade physical items in milliseconds, right?
Yeah.
So it's always a delicate dance of, making sure when we do a new feature that A, it works, and B, it doesn't screw up something else. Because the background of this thing has gotten very complicated very quickly. It's an intense system. If you just look, if you want a couple good sound bites, there are more unique items on EPAC than there are on Amazon and eBay. Think about that.
That doesn't surprise me.
Wow.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
Because every card is individual. Every scan is individual.
Yeah.
If you go in and you buy a vacuum cleaner on Amazon, they have a representative image, right? Yeah.
Stock photo. Yeah.
Everything is individual on EPAC. And it's crazy to think about, but the system is really intense.
It is. Is it, sorry, I don't want to go too much into the technical side of it, but is it kind of a blockchain kind of thing? Where you can kind of track the audit of a card and the journey it's been through? Or I'm just curious.
So, we don't talk about it a lot, but theoretically, the technology is built on a blockchain type of technology. We just don't publish the stuff outwardly that
of course
makes it blockchain per se.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we can track a card back to, the origin of it.
Wow.
That's a beautiful idea for, my mind goes pinging to wonderful, because I work in marketing. So, and I know that's your background as well from where you came up. I start thinking about, ideas for content, the journey and the life of a card. You've still got a card sat in there from 2016 Marvel Masterpieces that might have been through 20, 30, 40 collectors' hands.
Right.
Wow.
It's just the touch points. And it's still sat in a box.
There's a lot of things. There are so. I mean, the hard part that the EPAC team has is that there are so many cool things to do, and so little time to execute all the programming to implement. So we try. Our focus generally on the EPAC side is to try to make the user experience as pleasant as possible, because there's a lot of cool features we could add, but in some cases, it makes things more complicated and harder to navigate. So it is this constant battle that the EPAC team is always working on as the risk reward of adding certain features, because we want it to be easy. We really want it to be easy and short. And sometimes there's not even a way to get there. We add a feature and it's just there's no way to add it so it's easy for the end user, which is always difficult. Yeah.
Good. All right. Listen, Jason, I'm very aware of the fact that we've gone over the time that you very kindly allowed us to. So I'm going to kind of circle us very gently into land here. Can I just say, let's do this again. If you've got time in your schedule, let's do it again when you can.
This was so much fun.
New stuff to talk about. When you've got a new set thing coming out, this project they've been working on. Your money's good here. Please come back anytime.
Well, we've already exhausted my first appearance and my origin story. So, the most valuable items are kind of out of the way. So you're probably better off with the rest of the team.
So
frankly, look, I'm happy to share with you kind of my journey of Marvel cards, and especially at Upper Deck, because, again, I hired on the sports side. I never thought I would get the privilege to work on the Marvel side. And I talk about it. There are very few people across the world that can do sports and entertainment and Marvel stuff. I call them daywalkers. Luckily, I'm one of them. But I'm not the guy in the day-to-day. I'm not the guy that can give you all the cool information now. I can give you the background on some of this stuff, and I'm happy to, and I was glad to be able to give that to you guys today. But there's a lot more interesting people working here at Upper Deck that can give you more of the stuff that you guys are interested in at this point.
We are so excited to talk to each and every one of them.
I believe there is a roadmap of talking to those people. It's kind of one of those speed dating things now. We're going to speed date around the Upper Deck team. So, Jason, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and thank you for everything you've done for the hobby and for the Marvel collectors. And I'm sure I'm really excited to see what you guys have got next.
We've got there is a ton in the pipeline, and unfortunately there's a lot of stuff that has been announced. There's a lot of stuff that hasn't been announced. I know it's frustrating that there's no release dates and you guys get like these 48-hour notices. The one tease I will give you is there are some sets that are in the pipeline for 2020 that are EPAC exclusives. So be prepared, because there's some stuff coming. So you guys will have plenty to talk about on your show.
We will do indeed. Well, with pleasure.
The content generator. Thank you so much, sir.
So Jason, all that remains now is for you to, if you would be so kind, is to lead us out of this week's episode with our traditionally customary sign-off that Norrin always gets wrong.
What?
Okay, well, I'm going to adapt it a little bit. So I'm going to say everybody needs to go out and enjoy collecting Marvel trading cards.
Thanks for listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast. Visuals and tasting notes for each episode can be found on our Facebook page. You can subscribe and leave us a voicemail via our home on anchor.fm/MCCP. We're also on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms. Please take a second to subscribe, like, and review our show wherever you get your podcasts. Our podcast can be found by Googling at the MCC Pod, which will also find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Our Facebook community is at MCCW, Marvel Card Collectors Worldwide, and MMC, Marvel Masterpieces Collectors. The great music we use is called Rocket Power by Kevin MacLeod. Thanks to the collectors, artists, and creators who support the Marvel Cards Fan Collective. We'll see you next time, and remember, it's a small hobby but a fun one. Make mine Marvel and enjoy collecting.